Welcome, Shaneel. Thanks so much for joining me today. Let's start with your entrepreneurship journey. It's been incredibly moving and inspiring. Can you share how you arrived here?
Um, yeah, it's a personal experience. Thank you, Nirad. Uh, it started in 2012 when my wife experienced shoulder pain, and and then from that she was misdiagnosed twice by doctors. The second doctor didn't have her past file because of fax machine error, and so they repeated the same tests and came with the same conclusion. And so months went by, and the pain just kept on increasing. And then we were fortunate; we did a private MRI. And at that point, that's when the diagnosis came. And she was diagnosed with the late stage lung cancer. And she was a non-smoker, fit, in her 30s. And so it caught us by surprise. And but that entered the world of information chaos for us. And we often had to repeat our story and manage multiple providers. It was a very difficult time to kind of move forward and care for her at the same time, manage this new way of life. And I always remember when in the first meeting with the first oncologist in December 2013, and he said, your life will be measured in months. And we were very angry at that point. She lived over 4 years and less than 1% due. And that's when we realized that, taking control of your health and managing it is the best way of advocating for yourself. And since then, I've been a patient advocate. And as a patient advocate, I've been giving talks at health conferences and talking about data in your hands and the power of data in your hands. And then also started Zoeinsights.
Tell us about Zoe Insights and Zoe Discoveries. They're the two flagship products. And as an outsider, when I look at them, they seem to be kind of tools focused on patient-recorded outcomes, but also patient empowerment tools, right? It gives a lot of control into the hands of patients rather than just being dependent on everything being captured at the physician's or doctor's end. And then also, the third angle that I saw was it's a solid attempt at disrupting the electronic medical record space. Now, how have these products brought a paradigm shift to not only to patients, but also to caregivers?
Mm-hmm. So uh, I would say we're not in the app development business.
Okay.
We are creating a movement for self-advocacy and empowerment and freedom. That's why we're doing this. What we're building is the platform, Zoe Insights and Zoe Discovery. And Zoe Insights allows you to better organize your health data. You could analyze the information and you could take action.
Mhm.
Right? And unlike other applications, especially patient portals, which are tethered to the health system, this stays with you. No matter where you go, it's meant to stay with you for life, and you can track all your health history, log it, and share it with whomever you deem important. And it's also not focused on a disease. It's focused on health optimization. And that's why you could put any type of therapy and disease information in there. Our goal, like our vision, is a world where like every person is connected to their data, to resources, and a community of people that they need in order to live their best possible life. And when you're going through something like chronic disease or cancer, um, you really change your focus and what you value. And you value a lot is on um, being in control, uh, being connected to a community, and maintaining your freedom and independence. And that's kind of what we're striving with Zoe Insights. Uh, so that's the whole platform is about collecting your information, storing it, sharing it with whomever you want, and keeping it for life. Zoe Discovery, and that actually Zoe Discovery came about just by interest and talking to researchers. And so when they heard about what we're doing with Zoe Insights platform, they came to us and they asked, well, can researchers use it? Because one thing which a lot of people are looking for, and this is could be the health authority, foundations or researchers, they're looking for real world data. They want to know what really works and what people are using. And that's hard to get because that is in the real world. That's in real life. And our hospital system is designed for encounters and people who are going into the hospital system, which is infrequent or only at certain phases in your life. And so Zoe Discovery allows a organization or researcher to configure the journal, distribute it to people, and start collecting that information. And what's unique with us is that all that data that you give to researchers, you keep yourself, and you can use it for your own analysis. That's a fundamental difference because that's about shifting the power to you, because data is power. And then what we'll do eventually is create a crowdsourcing platform. That's part of our roadmap.
So what's the roadmap for both Zoe Insights and Zoe Discoveries? Will it be driven by mostly the roadmap or the paths that patients take, or the health authorities or hospitals that they take? Like, who will be driving the future roadmap? What is the roadmap? My first question was. Secondly, what would be driving that roadmap?
Yeah. So we actually, it will be Zoe. It will be our company in conjunction with the patients and caregivers we serve. We are a social enterprise, and we're in tune with the people who we serve, which are people, anybody who's health aware. So what our roadmap for Zoe Insights is that we're creating a platform so you can store all your health data. So we launched that in June 2020 with partnership of Alberta Cancer Foundation. And then we wanted to take the next step is start integrating wearables and digital tech. So that means you could collect all your information. The third phase is a crowdsourcing platform where we're going to aggregate all this data and echo it back to you, back to the person. So let's say you're going through a health condition or a challenge, be it a chronic disease or cancer. And what you want to do is you want to find others who are like you. That's step one, right? Because you're not alone in this world. And then what you want to do is you want to find what they did in order to help themselves, and how can that help you? And that's the crowdsourcing platform. So that's our future vision with Zoe Insights. Zoe Discovery is, in essence, we're going to enable citizen scientists. It's a SaaS solution. And all our data is encrypted. It's in Canada. As a software as a service, we take care of the platform. But what we're enabling right now are researchers, but eventually we want to enable citizen scientists to actually start doing assessment and analysis of the data to either help them or people like them. And the reason I say that is because the outliers, like what we were doing and others, we're doing the same thing. They're doing that right now, but it's a fragmented tool set. Sometimes they have to wait for grants or access the system. To be frank, the system is working too slow. And with the advent of crowdsourcing platform, the internet, and the democratization of data, there's a niche there where we want to fill, and that's this platform.
So Zoe Insights and Zoe Discoveries, are they available only to Canadian patients for now, or is it available globally, North America? Like, what's the current footprint?
Yeah, so it's available globally. And that's the whole purpose of it. The purpose was we're not going to tether to a provincial health authority. We purposely did that because that way anybody across Canada could use it. But when we launched in June, anybody in the world could use it. We actually have some people in Australia who found our product and started using it. So I mean, that's the power of the internet. But the whole premise is if you look at it, the healthcare system from a person's perspective, we want our data. We want to collect whatever we deem important to us. We want it to follow us, and we want to share it to whomever we want. And throughout my life, I could be living anywhere in the world or going anywhere in the world. That's our criteria for our platform.
Imagine the empowerment, right? Like for countries, developing countries, or even some poor nations, poor communities, where cell phone penetration is pretty much across the globe. They can be so empowered and have access to um, physicians, facilities, but also just like making themselves comfortable with where they are in their journey. And it can start from not even like a chronic disease or something, but when we start seeing physician for the first time, right from our childhood days.
Yeah.
Till,
So it's really good, Nirad, you made that point because um, right now we're focused on Canada and then North America.
okay.
But what we found is, and especially through my patient advocacy work and going to like international conferences,
Yeah.
is that in developing countries,
Yeah.
they don't have a unified electronic health record system.
No. Yeah.
Right? They don't have it. And so what happens, the behavior is people collect their own files or in their CDs or their images. And so our platform allows you to collect all that information and store it in one spot and then share it with whomever you want. And you do that digitally. And so
And
we were talking to a person in South Africa, and they're saying that that's their demand. That's what they need is one central location. So in essence, the future vision is that we could become a global EMR, but it's all driven by patients. Now you take this a step further. Is that we've talked to there's a gentleman who does the humanitarian aid. He's a physician, and he's gone to refugee camps.
okay.
Right. So they said, here's our typical persona. A person is no documentation. They come into the refugee camp. They've already have psychological challenges, and they're transient, and we need to help them. However, we're constrained because the NGOs cannot share data. So what happens then is that every time, just like, to be honest, like what we were doing is like every time they see a doctor, they have to repeat their story.
Yes.
And then what happens if they move and they're transient and they move away from the camp? But there's one thing that the doctor said that's consistent. One is that there is Wi-Fi available at the refugee camps.
Yeah.
And number two, majority of them have cell phones.
Yes.
And they're proficient in using cell phones. And most of them have smartphones. And that's all you need for our platform. And so instead of the data being stored with the NGO or the health authority, let's flip the model and say, let the person store the data and they grant anybody access they need in order to help them. Yes. And that to me is the formula for, it's a contribution of empowering patients and people.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And just last question. Before, like, for example, we are talking about a product with such a global acute need for such a product. And you're talking about developing countries, even refugees, population that's transient. How about the affordability side of it? Cell phones and cell phone penetration is quite high, no matter which country you see as of today. But what about the affordability side of it? Like, what would be an approximate cost for managing my own Zoeinsights subscription, for example?
Yeah. And so let me go back to the architecture. I mean, we are a software as a service. And we're disease agnostic.
Okay.
Right. So that means our market footprint is very large. If you look at in North America, there's about 150 million people that have some type of disease. Yeah. So sad to say, that's chronic disease is prevalent and it's growing.
Yeah.
And so what we want to do is, or I should say, our platform has a free version which you can download right now. And then it has a premium version. And the premium version is $5 a month. It's a cup of coffee a month, or $50 a year for the subscription. And it allows you more advanced features. But even with the free version, you could track your health, you could log your medications, you could have reminders, you could put in your virtual binder of information. But when you get into more advanced features, like for example, granting caregiver access, and if you want to put in your entire MRI, the storage capacity, that's where you get the premium feature. Yeah.
Coming to the development of like such a complicated product, you have a distributed team. You have team here in Canada and then in Asia. What were the lessons learned from engaging a team that's offshore, managing them, and then delivering the final product?
Yeah. So, part of like my background is in IT management and management consulting, and Corey Capser, my co-founder, is also a a developer, a senior developer. So we had experience with managing offshore teams. And it's a different skill set. It's not that easy in the sense that you have to, it's a different type of communication. There's always risks that things get lost in translation, and you have more setbacks than success. I mean, we're fortunate enough through our network, we found a good partner, Oxenta in Sri Lanka, and we've been working with them for over a year and a half. And but the key lessons, what we learned from our experience is one, you have to have, the strong communication, plus obviously strong documentation. The third is often it's easier to actually work at nights with the offshore team than getting the offshore team to work at night for us, because there's a 12-hour difference. The reason is what you want to do is you want to make sure they're set up for success, which means that if they're all in the office, then you adjust for them. And so we go back and forth, but that's about a partnership.
Yeah.
And then the other benefit of the distributed team is the fact that when we go into application support, we get coverage beyond Mountain Standard Time so there's a lot of advantages. The other advantage is as a startup, we have to be very nimble. And so we have to be able to scale up and scale down resources with little obligation from our end. And we could afford that with an offshore team.
What would you advise to other entrepreneurs who are inspired and ready to kick off their next venture?
I think to start a venture and have a startup, you have to be mentally conditioned to be in the right mindset to start this journey. The psychology of running a startup is tough, and it's not often talked about, right? The mental stress. I've gone sometimes where I've I come home just cried just because it's hard to get rejected. It's hard to keep the perseverance. You need a lot of grit. Yeah. The things that you should not start up for is for the money. I think anybody who thinks they could start a startup and focus on the money is just, they'll realize that the sacrifice and the cost of doing it is far greater than the potential of the money that you could create. So you have to really have a passion for what you want to do, and which is worthy and strong enough, stronger than the sacrifices that you have to make.
Very insightful. Coming to your personal journey, you have been an IT consultant, a pilot, and now an entrepreneur. What's next for you?
That's a good question. Well, I'm an entrepreneur, but we're still in the infant stage. So my plan is to continue on with the startup and grow this. We want to help as many people as we can.
Yeah.
And that's our vision. I think I will continue in the medical space, but as Zoeinsights evolve from being a data platform, I truly want to become a platform of intelligence of health data and to serve ever greater numbers of people.
Thank you so much, Shaneel. This is, again, motivating and very, very inspiring. My best wishes on success of your organization, your team, and your products. And let's stay in touch, stay safe, and stay connected.
Thank you, Nirad. And thank you for the opportunity.